Hello and welcome. My name is Carrie. I'm the Happy Witch, and this is Wednesday's Witchy Wisdom. Let me pin my topic for this evening, and I'll be right back. Alright, so tonight I want to talk about relationships and breakups. So this is something that I'm going through personally, and hopefully maybe some of the things that I'm going through and that I can share with people might help other people that are going through the same thing right now as well. And it's really crazy because it is so personal, so I really don't even know where to start. Relationships are hard, but they don't really have to be. And, we've all heard, it takes two people to make a relationship work, and it takes two people to fuck it up too. So really what I want to talk about is coming at this from that higher level of consciousness, setting your ego aside, because that's usually what happens when people break up. Everybody wants to start throwing stones at each other, what you didn't do or what you did, and it really doesn't matter what either one of you did. The relationship is either there to help you grow and to learn lessons, or, well, that's really it. That's what the relationship is there for, one way or the other. And you just have to figure that out. Oh my gosh, this is really harder than I thought it was going to be. So number one, found this wonderful little quote, that says, no matter how attractive a person's potential may be, you have to date their reality. And when you step into that higher level of consciousness and you finally fall in love with the person, it doesn't matter what you can see that they might become and how much you want to help them become that. That's not your journey. That's not your mission. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is not to push that person into what you think they're capable of becoming. Your purpose is to love them right now. My blush looks really freaking crazy. Anyway, sorry. And that's hard because we all, want to see people grow and want to see people become the best possible versions that they can be, but it's up to them to drive that boat. So realizing that and realizing when you've reached the end of your journey in that person's life, regardless of how hard you've worked to fight to keep that relationship together, this is harder than I thought it was going to be. And regardless of how much you've invested in it, you can't stay in something because you feel like you have a duty to be there because of how much you've invested. So you don't want to pull out because you've came this far and you've worked so hard. If you've reached the end of your rope, the end of your contract, you've reached the end of your contract, and you have to realize that. And you have to move forward. And when you love that person, you can still love them for every single fucking thing that they are and want their happiness, whether that's with you or without you. Okay, one of the other things that I wanted to talk about, relationships and making them work, is learning your love language and your partner's love language. That book's been around for a long time, The 5 Love Languages, and I think it's really, really, really important and really, really, really helpful. Not only knowing your partner's love language so that you can recognize when they are actually trying and doing things that they are wired to do to show you that they love you, but you have to be willing to attempt to speak their language as well. I mean, just think of it as two actual separate languages. If you speak French and your partner speaks Spanish, how well do you think you're going to be able to communicate if each of you don't attempt to learn at least some key phrases? So That's really important. And if you are just like, I've done everything I can do, everything I know to do, and you just don't get it, okay, well, did you try to speak my language? If you know what my language is, did you try to do it from what you know I see? Anyway, I hope you understood that, because that's really a big thing. Like, my love language is words of affirmation and physical touch. And I was going to try not to make this personal, but I will, for reasons that need to be said. You know, his language was acts of service. So, you know, he did amazingly at doing things for me that showed me love. But I still needed to hear it. I needed to know, okay, you're doing these things because of what I think. Because that's another thing that can happen is, you know, you might have something that you want so fucking bad. And this goes with anything. You know, you start to see signs. Well, if you want something bad enough, you can put your own spin on things. You can read those signs whatever way you want to read them. And until the actions and the words match up, sometimes people still have questions about what you're, I don't want to say what, the reason that you're doing these things is for the right reason, you know? So just learn those love languages. And FYI, boys and girls, sex is not a love language. Okay. So another quote, because I want to make sure that I keep this under 10 minutes, but I feel like I could go on and on for hours talking about this stuff. There is no such thing as the perfect man or woman. Just find one who tries hard enough to make you happy and be willing to grow with you. And I think that is another thing that some people that are afraid to commit get caught up in that word commitment, get caught up in what their partner might think the I love you and what they're promising. Saying I love you and promising to be with somebody doesn't mean a promise for forever. We all have to realize that things change from day to day. People grow, and unfortunately, they do grow apart. And especially when you're working on yourself, sometimes that fucking shit happens and it sucks. But making a promise to somebody that you want to at least try. I'm in this with you, and I want to see where it might go, is not a promise for forever. So it's okay. Don't be afraid to make that promise. Don't be fucking afraid of getting hurt, because it's part of learning and it's part of growing. Which comes to my last little quote, and then there's another little thing that I thought of that I wanted to say. So, you know, no relationship is ever perfect. No relationship is ever a waste of time. You've either figured out what you want and found what you want, or you've figured out what you don't want. And that is still okay. You can't be mad at a person for being where they are in their journey. Some people have traumas. Some people have beliefs and things that they have to work out for themselves. And it brings up one of the 4 agreements that I, talked about before. Not to take things personally. Whatever somebody's going through, don't feel like they did it because of you. They're dealing with their own shit in their own way, and they've got to figure it out. And it sucks that you're on the tail end of it sometimes. Sometimes you're the one that caused the pain too, because you've got your own shit that you've got to work out. Face it, admit it, deal with it, figure it out. Maybe you can figure it out together. Maybe shit's so fucked up that each of you need to take your own breaks and step back and figure your shit out individually. So one of the last little point, just a piece of advice, that my dear friend Sonia mentioned the other night, thinking about our fears and what we want and we don't want. And this can go for, any aspect of your life, whether it's your relationship, your career, whatever you're going through. Sit down and make a list. What I want and what I don't want. Okay? after you've made that list, tear it in half. Take that don't want list and stop living in fear. Burn that fucking shit. Let that fucking go. And start living in faith that the things that you want will come to you. Focus on that. Whether, like I said, whether it's love or anything else that you want in your life. Love, I want to say is hard, but it freaking doesn't have to be hard. You just have to get out of your fucking ego. Let shit go. Live from your heart. And the person that's meant to be with you will find you. Don't be mad if it's not the one that you thought it was supposed to be. Because maybe they were just there for a reason, to help you figure out who you are and what you really do want. So, before I start crying, I'm going to bid you all a very farewell and good night. I hope that this wasn't too all over the place, and that maybe some of the things that I said will help some of you with what you might be going through right now. I know this new moon is bringing in a major reset for a lot of people, so just figure out what you want, what's most important to your heart, and live in your truth and fucking go for it with everything that you have. Don't fucking settle. And don't be mad if somebody that you've invested in isn't going on your journey with you. They've got their own things to go through. Alright, until next week, I love you guys. Satnam and namaste. Have a good night.